But to do it, he has to like charge straight into the fire of the ships protecting him. And so he's destroyed too. Okay. And so here is Colin aboard Jiltana's ship, Dahak 2. Because Dahak was lost, right? So they went right on building Dahaks for Battlefleet. This is like number 43 or something, but they just call it Dahak 2 to keep it straight, you know. And they've tried replicating Dahak in these other computers. They're a whole different computer architecture. They use, they sustain memory in energy fields and so forth, not a physical matrix and so forth. So there are big differences between the basic operating systems, not just the code and whatnot. And so Dahak has like dumped his entire memory to like 2 or 3 of these ships and got them. Okay. So here they are. They're after the fight. Colin is sitting with Jiltana. They're best friends. Most of them have been killed in the fighting. And all of a sudden, everything goes down. Ship's dead. Rolls over onto manual backups. Can you imagine operating a 3,000 kilometer starship on manual backups? Okay, it's like, I don't think so, man. And then all of a sudden they come back up. And Dahak 2, the Imperium decided that all computers should have female voices, regardless of the name of the ship. So here is a ship named Dahak, which is a masculine name, and it has a soprano voice. Okay, Emperor Herden the 12th sounds like a teenage girl. Okay, this is just wrong, you know. But anyway, so Dahak speaks without prompting. Dahak 2 does, which has never happened before. And it addresses Colin, not Jiltana. And Colin is like this, and the vocoder starts shifting. And all of a sudden it shifts back into the original Dahak's name. And basically what had happened is that he had been continuing to noodle away on the problem. And he thought he might have found the answer. The problem was that there was only like a 12% chance it would work. And if it didn't work, it would fry the central computer. So he didn't tell anybody about it because they couldn't afford to have any of the manned ships lose their mind for all intents and purposes. But what he did do was he loaded all of his current memory to Dahak 2, and he was in communication with Dahak 2 right up to the moment of his destruction. And he bootstrapped a command that as soon as Dahak 2 reverted from general quarters to bring up the canned Dahak personality, and it worked.
Okay.
So they get him back. And that's basically where the second book ends. And the third book, I'm not going to tell you what happens in that one, except to say that there are people who think that I wrote the Safehold books to further explore concepts that I used in that book. In fact, the Safehold books were proposed to Jim Bain at Bain Books at the same time as Downer Harrington books, and I'd wanted to write them for forever. And it didn't look like I was going to get a chance to. So I took some of the central concepts from the Safehold books and used them in this one.
Okay.
So this is actually all the Safehold there would have been if Tor Books hadn't bought the Safehold books. But if people see similar DNA, that's why.
Okay.
That's the reason. It's pretty good, and it has one of my favorite all-time lines, the last line in the book. And I'm not going to tell you why it works, but the last line in the book is, "Will there be a reply?" Okay? And trust me, it works. It's as good as Shannon Foraker saying "oops" after she blew up the state sex super dreadnoughts. Okay? Or if you, I don't know, for those of you who have read the Shadow Saga, the Storm from the Shadows, it's as good as Avars Terakov saying to the state sec brigadier after he's launched the kinetic weapon that's going to kill her, "Why do people like you always think you're more ruthless than people like me?" And she's still like trying to figure it out when it arrives. You know? I do have the occasional line that I like, okay? And those are three of my favorites. But that's essentially more than you ever wanted to know about the Dahak books. They're available, I think they're only available now in the omnibus Empire from the Ashes
Yes.
Single volume. And that's partly because they're early books, and the first two were intended to be one novel that I split into two because the storyline just broke so cleanly.
Now, that Empire of Ashes, that encompasses all three
That
books?
encompasses all three, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, there's another line, it's in the Empire from the Ashes. There are these children. They're like on they're midshipmen. They're on their snotty cruise, and they're aboard the sublight battleship Israel, which has been, for various reasons, kicked out of a planetoid in interstellar space just before the planetoid blows up, and everybody thinks they're dead. And there's this one star system that once upon a time had an inhabited planet before the plague that they can reach, so they go there. And they find out that it survived the plague, but it has this planetary religion that is built around the Planetary Defense Center that was set up to kill any ships coming in case they might be contaminated. And they have religious festivals like the High Festival of Central Fire Test, and whatnot, where they go and they put on their vestments, which are based on Battlefleet uniforms, and they go through all of the oral commands to exercise the system. And they almost kill Israel on the way in, and Israel is stuck on the planet. They're trying to find, they think they may have found a way to deal with it. And one of them, Sean, says to Sandy, his girlfriend and later wife, she says, I don't know, if we should be doing this, And she says, well, of course we should. We got to be the right people to do it. And she says, what are you talking about? I says, well, just look at it. It's a religious problem, right? And she says, yeah. And she says, well, we are the lost children of Israel. So, like I say, and they find out that Israel's previous commander had this thing for 20th century movies, and there's like 500 of them loaded to Israel's memory, and they don't have much to do besides watch movies, for like 2 years. So when they get there, by the time they get there, they're flying through this narrow mountain pass, trying to stay under the radar in this cutter, and Sandy leans over and says, "The Force, Sean." Use the Force. And it's like, oh, shut up. And I happen to really, really love those three books. Those are, in fact, Mutineer's Moon and the Armageddon Inheritance, which were the first two, and the Apocalypse Troll were the first three solo novels that I ever sold.
Okay.
So I just, I had a lot of fun writing them. And I was really a little surprised here while I was rattling on, while I was running off at the mouth. I was really a little surprised by some of the details that were coming back to me.